If that had been true, and our head coach, less than a year away from the World Cup, was interviewing for other jobs during the Gold Cup, I would have been here telling you he needs to resign immediately.
Hello, sunshine. Welcome to the State of the Union, presented by Yerba Madre, the boost you need when you want to win. Drink Yerba Madre. Come to life. I'm Alexi Lalas, and this is where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. This show is live, as it will be throughout the Gold Cup, following each and every day of action. This show, we are going to review day 11 and our first day of quarterfinals, then look ahead to tomorrow and the United States' battle with Costa Rica in their quarterfinal game. But first, joining me as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. Mosse, how you doing on this? What are we looking at? June 28th in the year 2025. This year is flying by, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Are you going with the Hervé Renard look tonight?
This is an homage to Saudi Arabia coach Hervé Renard as we bid him adieu. As Saudi Arabia goes out of this Gold Cup, but we know him from so many national teams, men's and women's, so many different competitions, and now we saw him in all his glory again here at the Gold Cup, and evidently they're going to be back. Saudi Arabia is going to be back at the next Gold Cup. I don't know if Hervé Renard is going to be here, and for those that maybe have somehow missed it, I mean, if you follow soccer, you know who Hervé Renard is, and you know what he does to people. And so, yes, this is my like I said, my homage to him, because there is no human being out there that wears a button-down shirt better than he does, and he was sporting it again tonight. And even in a loss, he was glorious.
You were showing a lot of chest, my friend.
This is another, this is a two-button Hervé tonight. So late night here, Saturday night. We're gonna have some fun. I don't wear it as well as he does, but again, just an homage to him. So, let's see. Before we get to stuff, you have watched anything? We're coming off of a couple of days off, so everybody kind of had a little time to decompress and to do some different things. You see anything?
I did rip through season 4 of The Bear already. I have thoughts. Now, you don't watch this show. The deal here is The Bear was originally supposed to be 3 seasons. The first 2 seasons were exceptional, and then the show was so popular that they convinced the creator to make it 4 seasons, and that led to this awkward season 3 in which they were just vamping. The plot didn't move at all. But now, season 4, we all thought we're going to get back on track here. And while it was better than season 3, the pacing still felt off to me. It still felt like not that much happened. And there was a plot twist at the end that I guess sort of works as the end of the show, but could also be a cliffhanger for a season 5. So I'm actually now wondering if this is it or if the show is going to continue.
Well, it sounds like it's jumped the shark, and it sounds like it's got a little Ted Lasso-ish type of thing where they didn't know what they had. It blew up, and they had to kind of do some things, and people weren't prepared. This happens in music, too, sometimes when people spend all their time writing their first album. It's a big hit, and then they got to go back and in a matter of months write a second album. I have not watched it. Who's in it? Anybody I would know?
Well, Jeremy Allen White, the actor who's playing Bruce Springsteen in that biopic, Deliver Me From Nowhere.
Oh, but that's different than the guy that played Willy Wonka, right? Who's the guy? Who's the kid that played Willy Wonka? Anyway, I get them all confused. They all kind of look the same. They're all kind of.
Are you thinking Timothy Chalamet,
Chalamet,
who played Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown? This is different.
Wait, hold on. You said who? Oh, Bruce Springsteen. This is a Bruce Springsteen
Yes.
one. They look kind of the same, both the actors to me. All right, but still a thumbs up. 4 seasons, maybe 5. We don't know.
Yeah, still a thumbs up. Also, the final season of Squid Game dropped on Netflix. I've watched the first episode of that. I will withhold judgment until I've gotten through.
Well,
all
you're
of it.
a man of principle when it comes
Yes.
to that. Let's see. I got 2 things that I watched over the break here. One, Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie. I think that's over on the old Max machine, and it's about that woman that faked her own kidnapping, and it was a big hullabaloo and all sorts of craziness going on. I don't believe her. She's, this is like her side of the whole story. I think she just got caught, as the title says, caught in a lie, and I think she's just trying to figure out a way out of it. But it was still interesting and fascinating to kind of have a glimpse into what is going on or what was going on with that relationship, so much so that she had to do something like this, although she said she didn't. And then the other one was, it's only about an hour documentary. It's on the train wreck documentary series over there on Netflix called Poop Cruise, about one of these cruises that went out, lost complete control and electricity in the middle of the Gulf of America there, and all hell broke loose. And it's amazing because nowadays everybody has a camera, and so it's documented literally every single minute of it and the trials and tribulations that these poor people had to go through out there on the cruise. At times it's gross, but it actually ends up being a wonderful study in, Lord of the Flies, just types of moments like this, but also coming together. So I do recommend both of those things. Shall we light this candle, my friend?
Let's do it.
Where shall we start?
We had our first two quarterfinal matches today at the Gold Cup, both in Glendale, Arizona. We'll take them in order. First up, it was Panama, Honduras. Panama took a 1-0 lead late in the first half. Ismael Diaz converted a penalty. He is your Golden Boot leader with 6. But late in the second half, Anthony Lozano equalized for Honduras. In the quarterfinals and semis, it is straight to penalties after 90. In the final, there would be extra time. So we go to a shootout that had a little bit of everything, including a save negated by a VAR review because the keeper was off his line. But in the 6th round of the shootout, Eduardo Guerrero skied his attempt for Panama, and that opened the door for Carlos Pineda to convert the winner. Honduras off to the Gold Cup semis. Panama are out.
Yeah, so gosh, there's actually a lot to say about this game. So I think, coming into the game, we were talking about what Panama is, what Panama is looking to be, obviously with qualifying and the real chance that they have of going back to another World Cup. Landon Donovan was saying that he thought that this was the most complete team here at the Gold Cup, and undoubtedly a really good team and a team that is heading in the right direction, and not for nothing, but has the U.S.'s in their targets and has been beating the U.S. So we know them well. I think this is a situation where Panama went out there, and remember that the movie Rounders with John Malkovich, and
Sure.
just hanging around,
Yeah.
and that's what they did. And Honduras just hung around, and Panama said, "All right, we'll get the goal," and they got the goal, and they took the foot off the gas, and they just let Honduras stick around. And then all it takes is a set piece and it falls nicely. The soccer gods smile upon you and it goes in. Now, in normal circumstances, yeah, that would be concerning and you would be kicking yourself because Panama has no one to blame but themselves. They were a better team. They had plenty of possession. They had plenty of opportunities. There was no ruthlessness in their game. And that's why and that's how they let Honduras back into the game. But this gets to the dynamic and the new dynamic existing when it comes to going directly to penalty kicks and what teams think and what players think and what coaches think. I happen to love it. I'm not sure coaches like it because it's kind of it obviously changes the way they have to go about their job. But I know you've been there before. If you don't have a team in it, I don't know about you, but as soon as it goes to extra time, I'm hoping for penalties. I would rather just fast forward to penalties than have a goal scored in that extra 30 minutes. And so in this case, it goes right to penalties. But as you get closer and closer, if you are a lesser team, you recognize that maybe you have a better chance of advancing in penalties than you do in the regular 90 minutes. And if you are the better team, you start to get, angst in that, why haven't we scored? Why aren't we doing anything? And then you ultimately run out of time.
I think the straight to penalties could play into Costa Rica's strategy tomorrow. More on that later in the pod. But yeah, it's a remarkable turnaround for Honduras, who 11 days ago lost their opening match to Canada 6-0. And here they are in the semis. They made it to the final of the first ever Gold Cup in 1991, lost to the U.S. at the L.A. Coliseum. And we could have that final again. They're on opposite sides of the bracket. We'll see. But yeah, on Panama, listen, nothing surprises me in this competition, but man, they looked so dependable in winning all 3 group games, scoring a tournament high 10 goals in the group stage. So for them to go out like this, it is very disappointing for them. They were runners up at the last Gold Cup, runners up in the last Nations League. You felt like they might be headed to finally winning a major CONCACAF trophy this summer. It was not to be. But to your point, I don't think they played that badly. They had plenty of chances. They ran into a red hot goalkeeper, which, if you want to go there, that does lead us to our boost of the game.
Oh, let's do that. Nice segue there. All right, time for the boost of the game presented by Yerba Madre. Yerba Madre, the boost you need when you want to win. Drink Yerba Madre and come to life. All right, as you mentioned, our boost of the game is Edrick Menjívar. Oh, the goalkeeper. It's menu time.
I mentioned what a remarkable turnaround this was for Honduras coming back from that 6-0 against Canada. And what a personal redemption for Menjivar, who made that horrific mistake against Curacao in their last group game, essentially throwing the ball into his own net. And he was a laughing stock for a couple of days there, including on this podcast. And yet here he was today, the hero, making several incredible saves.
Several incredible saves. And this is, I love the guy because he is kind of unpredictable. Mo hadn't seen the gaff from the other day, and so I pulled it up or actually Landon hadn't seen it, and I pulled it up on my screen, and he couldn't believe it. And I had to watch it again because he comes out, and for those that remember, he came out to try to punch the ball, and somehow ended up not only missing the ball, but having the ball then hit off his shoulder and go backwards into his own goal. It was insane, and yet he makes these incredible saves today. Nearly saved the first penalty, and went underneath him. So he is a fun goalkeeper to watch. I don't know how fun he is to play in front of, because there is an unpredictability about him, and I'm not so sure about how good a goalkeeper he is. But man, oh man, he's going to the semifinals, and a lot of what he did today was good, and a lot of what he did today enabled this team to hang around consistently to get to that point to go through.
And we've talked about all the experienced managers at this Gold Cup. Reynaldo Rueda is another one, and he's doing a nice job. He's got Honduras in the semifinals. Shall we transition to the other quarterfinal today?
Yes.
Also in Glendale, Arizona, Mexico took on Saudi Arabia. It was 0-0 at the break, but Mexico scored early in the second half through Alexis Vega, and then an own goal late sealed it. 2-0 the final. El Tri off to the semis. Saudi Arabia's first ever Gold Cup campaign comes to an end.
Yeah, so again, we see this Mexico team, and we came on air kind of talking about the fact that there's not a lot to really complain about with Mexico. And for anybody that's followed Mexico over the years, that's a rarity. We've always found something to complain about. As a matter of fact, Mexico has found time and time again something to complain about, big, small, and everywhere in between. And yet the lack of dysfunction, the civility, the kumbaya type of situation that, at least from the outside, appears to be happening with this team, the confidence that they have, even starting a teenager today. So even the youth system and what that is producing, it all seems to be going Mexico's way. And yet through this tournament, we haven't really seen them, I think, play at their best, which you can look at both ways. You can say, well, this is as good as it gets. And while that might be good enough for a Gold Cup, is that good enough for a World Cup? Or you can say the ceiling is higher and they just haven't gotten there yet. And after today, you can say the exact same thing. I don't think this was a great performance, certainly not in the first half from Mexico, but it was enough. 2-0. They move on. They beat a team that's not even in CONCACAF that has a really good chance of coming back next summer. And yet, I'm left wanting more from Mexico.
There's nothing overly stylish about Mexico under Javier Aguirre, but I keep saying this. He has reinstilled a knack for getting results, which is, again, what they did today. And I should mention that Alexis Vega goal was initially chalked off for offsides, and then VAR corrected that mistake. Again, VAR, you can't live with it, can't live without it. So Mexico move on. And you mentioned the teenager. Cesar Montes was suspended. And so Javier Aguirre moved Edson Alvarez back into a center back role. And then in the midfield, he didn't have Luis Chavez as an option. Terrible news there. He tore his ACL in training in the lead up to this match. He's going to be out several months. And remember, he had scored that amazing free kick against Saudi Arabia in the last World Cup. And so Aguirre ends up starting Eric Lira at the 6, who just won the CONCACAF Champions Cup with Cruz Azul. But yeah, he finds room in the lineup in a Gold Cup knockout game, no less, for 16-year-old Gilberto Mora, the youngest player in Mexico history. He plays for Tijuana. He is the youngest scorer in Liga MX history. He scored as a 15-year-old. fascinating that Aguirre made that decision. The kid did not look out of place
No.
at all tonight.
No, he looked good. And again, this still is a work in progress. You mentioned the injuries. And as players start to get hurt now, because it's inevitable, it just happens. When you get some of these serious injuries, then you start to think about, all right, when are you coming back? And players will start to do the calculation. Coaches will start to do the calculation with next summer going to be here before you know it. And as you get into, those injuries that are 6 months to 9 months, and even when you get back at 9 months, you're still not the player yet that you haven't got back to the player that you are. It gets into some really, sad territory for some of these players.
Not to veer off in a whole different direction about U.S. Talent development, because I know we could talk for hours about that, but it was brought up multiple times in the control room today. Mexico's got a player like this. If you're watching the Club World Cup, Argentina's got Franco Mastantuono, Brazil has Esteban Willian. It seems like almost every country has some teenage starlet. I mean, Yamal has obviously gone to a different place where he's maybe the best player in the world. But are you frustrated that in a Gold Cup, which is ostensibly about getting a look at new faces, there isn't some hotshot 18, 19-year-old American in the squad?
I am frustrated, and I completely understand why there would be frustration, given all the things that we talk about, and it's kind of an evergreen conversation, the size that we have, and the difficulty in identifying, and people slipping through the cracks, and all that kind of stuff. But I also think that, over the last couple of decades, we've looked at that and at times probably forced things. So I don't think it should be forced. If it's there, it's there. If it's there and we're not recognizing it, yeah, that's a problem. But still, if it's there and we recognize it, it better be. But yeah, I mean, I get that, but it also doesn't mean that the work isn't being done or the resources aren't being put into it. It just might mean it just hasn't come to fruition yet.
And by the way, Kevin Sullivan is not that much younger than Mora, and he's already signed with Manchester City.
Yeah.
So to be fair, the U.S. does have that guy. He's a little too young to be playing, in tournaments like this yet. But in the next few years, the U.S. has somebody coming down the pike.
Sure.
Could be interesting.
And we've all seen the Wunderkind phenomenon, and whether it's Freddie Adu or anybody else. So just because you're really, really good at a young age doesn't mean, when you extrapolate it out, that that's what happens in reality. I hope that Mora and everybody else does great things, but it's not always linear in terms of the development and the evolution of humans, let alone soccer players.
I mentioned the U.S. 2 more quarterfinal matches tomorrow in Minneapolis, including the U.S. taking on Costa Rica live on Fox. We expected to be spending all day today previewing that match, but there was a story that broke early that got everybody's attention. There was a report from England that Mauricio Pochettino had recently interviewed for the Brentford job. Jenny Taft is covering the U.S. team for us at this Gold Cup. She spoke to Pochettino. He denied it. Jenny did a report for us on the story. Let's take a listen to it right now.
Earlier today, I sat down with Mauricio Pochettino and asked him to confirm or deny the report that he had interviewed for the Brentford job during the Gold Cup. His answer was absolutely no, and he was careful to even want to address it with me because there is no truth to this report, even telling me that other clubs have reached out to him, respectfully, bigger clubs, and he will not take the call because that would be disrespectful to himself and disrespectful to the United States and the commitment he has made to lead this team at a World Cup. And I do think it's important to note that I've now been around Mauricio Pochettino for the last couple weeks, and he is really proud of the evolution this group has made from their first day to now. Even saying at the press conference today that in football there are factors that you cannot control, but what we can control with this group, I feel like we're in a very good place to compete tomorrow against Costa Rica.
Okay. First things first, I'm glad that our Jenny Taft was able to get to Pochettino and put this to rest and to have him put the kibosh on this rumor that came out. I woke up this morning and I started to see it through my timeline. The good part about social media and the information age is that information is instantaneous and it can go out there, and people that in the past didn't have a platform or didn't have a microphone are able to have that now. And when it comes to news and breaking news, again, the instantaneous nature of it enables people to get that out there. The other thing, though, is that everybody's got this microphone, everybody's got this platform, and you have to parse through what is real, what is not real. And who knows, maybe this was just an honest mistake and a misinterpretation, or any number of things. But ultimately, I think Mauricio Pochettino made it very, very clear that that is not something that happened, and more importantly, not something that he would ever, ever do. And that makes me feel good. The fact that this is not true, because if it were true that the U.S. coach, a year out from the World Cup, was interviewing for a coaching position at other clubs or other national teams, I would come on and I would tell you he needs to resign now. And if he doesn't resign, you need to fire him now. For the specific reason that Mauricio Pochettino gave Jenny Taft. It's completely disrespectful, not to mention absolutely insane the way that I look at it. I don't deny, and I'm not under any illusion that Mauricio Pochettino doesn't have suitors out there. He's going to have lots of people that are going to come for him, and he understands that. Not only did he say that that is something that he would never do, but then he said something to the effect of, "I have much bigger teams that are coming to ask me to do things than Brentford," and it was kind of a hilarious response as Brentford took the brunt of this reporting. But it's the information is out there, and we have to deal with it. I hope that it was the best intentions when it comes to this site and this person that put this out there. Sometimes you get things. Sometimes you get things wrong. You apologize and you move forward, and hopefully you learn your lesson to double and triple check. Because with a few texts, I was able to get the information. Obviously, Jenny was able to go right to the man himself, and again to deny it and to put this to rest.
So you 100% believe him?
Well, unless Mauricio Pochettino is lying or the Federation is lying. I mean, why? You don't believe it?
No, I do. But the fact that it seemed at all believable to me, though, is concerning. We all sort of have this impression that Pochettino is maybe not that thrilled with how things have gone so far, not happy with the players asking out this summer. So, I mean, that would be the only thing I would say. That my immediate reaction when I read this wasn't like, "Oh my God, that's crazy that Pochettino would be looking for another job right now." It felt somewhat believable to me, which is concerning.
I agree with that. But again, if Mauricio Pochettino is in any way thinking of moving on, jumping ship, washing his hands of the situation because of the reality that has now become apparent to him, go now. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time. We'll chalk it up to just one of those things, but don't lead us on. And I don't think he is. Again, it would infuriate me and it would sadden me if that is actually the case. And you want to talk about going, BS crazy? You would see yours truly go BS crazy if I found that was even a possibility.
All right, so Pochettino will be on the bench tomorrow when the U.S. faces Costa Rica. It's the 44th all-time meeting between the two countries, the 9th at the Gold Cup. The U.S. unbeaten in the previous 8, including the 2002 final. They beat Costa Rica 2-0. We've talked about it the last couple pods. Pochettino had some interesting lineup decisions, including in goal. What is your overall outlook for this match?
I don't think that he changes a lot, and because I think it kind of sets itself given what we've seen in the tournament. We talked about Matt Freese and the potential of Matt Turner coming in after not playing at all in the group stage. Unless he came to Matt Freese and Matt Turner for that matter, I guess even to Zach Steffen before he wasn't available, and said, this is what's going to happen. One goalkeeper, in this case, it's going to be Matt Freese because Steffen was around. He's going to play in the group stage, and then we're going to switch over. That's a different story. I don't think that happened. Again, I don't have any information. So I'm thinking that Matt Freese continues on. And I think that that's a smart approach. because you still have to see what Matt Freese is made of, and I'm not sure we've gotten a really good assessment through the group stage. I know he made a mistake in a previous game. Goalkeepers make mistakes. I think the back four over the group stage kind of solidified itself with Freeman, Richards, Ream, and Arfston. You know, we saw Berhalter and Luna sit out, but I think Pochettino and the group recognized that that was relative to the yellow cards. So they can come back in. They're still on yellow cards, so they could miss the semifinal if the U.S. were to go through with Berhalter and Luna. Still think that they go back in. We saw Tyler Adams come back in. I can't see him going back to the bench when it comes to Tyler Adams. I think for the duration of the tournament, Tyler Adams is going to start and play. Patrick Ajiman, I mean, where else are you going to go? White hasn't shown anything. So I think that whether you like him or not, this is who we're riding right now. And I know people are divided out there. Malik Tillman in Penn. I think Diego Luna comes back in. You know, and then you're talking about, you know, the McGlynn's and the Johnnies and you know, who else is there? Lucas and you know, those types of players. So you know, I think it's on the fringes. If there are changes, I don't think we're walking out tomorrow and seeing somebody that we've never seen. You know, like we saw with Mexico today.
Johnny evidently is a bit of a doubt, battling an ankle issue. Yeah, I agree with you. Tyler Adams will start. I'm curious to see if it's alongside Berhalter or De La Torre in the midfield. Everybody seems to think that front four has developed a pretty good understanding of McGlynn, Tillman, Luna, and Ajiman. I wonder if he preserves that or if he might make any changes there. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, I don't think Costa Rica have a whole lot of advantages in this game tomorrow, but one position where they do have an advantage, and this would be the case whether Matt Turner or Matt Freese starts, is in goal with Keylor Navas, who I think got his mojo back in that last group game against Mexico. And I teased this earlier in the pod. I think Miguel Herrera is going to set up Costa Rica tomorrow in a back five. They're going to park the bus. They're going to waste time from the opening minute. They're going to do CONCACAF things, try to get under the U.S.'s skin. And I think they're playing for a 0-0 to get to penalties because he then knows if it's Keylor Navas versus Matt Freese in a shootout, I'm taking Keylor Navas any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense that they would do that. They probably would do that whether they had Keylor Navas or not, but it's a nice thing to have in there, whether it's the penalties or just in the course of the game.
Also, they're minus their star striker Ugalde suspension, so that even more maybe takes them in that direction of playing for the 0-0 because they don't think they have a player up front that can really hurt the U.S.
Yeah, and as we've seen this U.S. team evolve and grow, you know, they're almost two portions of a tournament. You have the group stage, and then you have the knockout. And what you did in the group stage obviously matters, but there is a kind of a new chapter that happens. And obviously the ramifications of losing are dramatic. And they need to look no further than today to recognize the new dynamic that we talked about in going directly to penalties. And the longer it goes for someone like Costa Rica, the better off and the better chance they have of going through. Because like you said, I think that Costa Rica is going to absorb pressure, going to try to kill the game. Calvo and company are going to CONCACAF. By the way, Saudi Arabia tonight was full of CONCACAF, so it must have, you know, they not only got the lay of the land, but whatever they were drinking here, they got plenty of CONCACAF in them because they really tried to CONCACAF Mexico tonight. So yeah, I think that's absolutely the way that's going to play out. And so this U.S. team, whoever's in that starting lineup, is going to have to find a way to break them down either individually or spreading them out collectively.
I mentioned that it's the 44th all-time meeting between the two countries. I was crunching the numbers on it, and you know, the U.S. has won 5 of the last 6 meetings since 2019, including a 3-0 friendly win this past January in Orlando. Ajiman among the scorers in that one. Prior to that, Costa Rica had a winning record against the U.S. I don't think younger U.S. fans realize there once upon a time in your day, playing away to Costa Rica was every bit as daunting as playing away to Mexico.
People ask me what the most difficult place ever to play was, and usually they expect me to say, you know, the Azteca. And listen, the Azteca, when it was 100,000, and back in the day, Mexico would take us, and you know, high noon and the altitude and the smog, by the way, which has gotten a whole lot better. So it's not as daunting anymore. But I would always tell them what was worse was going to Saprissa. Now this is the old Saprissa Stadium, and it was insane. It was the proverbial Thunderdome experience. And they're right on top of you, and thousands of people there from the moment that you arrive, even 2 hours before the game. And they threw absolutely everything. And because of where the stands were, they were very, very close to you. So the pennies and the batteries and the piss and all that kind of stuff was right there. I loved every minute of it, but that was the most intimidating place to play. And I always tell people when they ask me, it was more intimidating than actually going to Azteca. But all of that was intimidating, but so was the team on the field. And this Costa Rica team is not even close to that. And as you mentioned, they're missing players because of yellow cards, because of injuries. And so this is ripe for the taking from a U.S. perspective. And I hope that they will have watched the games today and they recognize that come out, take what's given to you in terms of the possession, put them under pressure, and then you got to find a way to be ruthless. And Keylor Navas or not, even the best goalkeepers in the world, if you move players around the field, if you beat people on the dribble, if you put in dangerous set pieces, you're going to score goals.
U.S. Costa Rica is the second game in Minneapolis tomorrow. Before that, Canada will face Guatemala. Our good friend Jesse Marsch looking to get the Canucks into the semis.
I mean, Jesse's got to be sitting there thinking, okay, we've got to really work hard to screw this up. And they do. Canada is a much better team than Guatemala. So although we saw Panama, who everybody picked to go through today, lose, it certainly can happen. The bend and don't break mentality is a feature of a lot of these games, and I think it will be the same against Canada here. I just don't know how much Guatemala can bend before they break, and we're going to find out very, very quickly. And I mean, it would be a surprise to anybody if Guatemala were to find a way to stretch it to the 90 minutes and then win it in penalties.
Canada, Guatemala is on FS1. U.S. Costa Rica is on Fox. We showed Jenny Taft earlier. She is a Minneapolis native, so she's got to be loving covering these games out there.
Yeah, she's gonna have a good time out there. And it's in the big football stadium, so it's not the Loons venue.
Well, the last time we covered a game there, I'm sure you remember 2022, that World Cup qualifier against Honduras, which was at Allianz Field in St. Paul, near U.S. Bank Stadium, where tomorrow's game is, and it's the coldest match in U.S. history, absolutely freezing. We expect better conditions tomorrow.
It was, but either way, I expect a win. Okay, yeah, it's going to be very, 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 very nice. Speaking of conditions, and this actually segues into
we're going to get into that Club World Cup. Yeah, so the round of 16 of that competition got underway today. We had an all-Brazilian matchup. Palmeiras beat Botafogo 1-0 in extra time on a goal by Paulinho. And then later in the day, Chelsea beat Benfica 4-1 in extra time. Reece James gave them the lead. Angel Di Maria equalized late in regulation. And then in extra time, Nkunku, Neto, and Dewsbury Hall with the goals. So that sets up Chelsea Palmeiras in the quarterfinals. But late in regulation, this match was stopped because of lightning, ended up being almost a 2-hour delay. And this has become a big topic with the World Cup being here next summer. People expect the games to be played at similar times. And so how worried are you about this? Can you imagine a World Cup final stopped for 2 hours because of weather conditions?
Well, when this all happened, and keep in mind, this is a World Cup with 4 indoor venues coming up next summer with Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, and Vancouver. And even you'd have to say SoFi. But from a pure temperature standpoint, these are climate controlled. As a matter of fact, Messi and company will be playing indoors tomorrow in Atlanta in their Club World Cup knockout round. So yeah, it's a problem, but it's a problem that everybody has known about. And so when the final is put in New York, okay, New York in the middle of summer, it's going to be hot and should be a surprise to absolutely no one. And you're from that area. You could also have storms. We saw storms today in Charlotte and other places coming through. And so when you have the ability to mitigate some of those problems that are a disaster from a television perspective, they're a disaster from a competitive perspective, because keep in mind, what if there's simultaneous play? And the whole reason for simultaneous kickoffs is so that nobody has an advantage. Well, what do you do? What if you have to delay the game? You saw the game today is delayed 2 hours. Well, now people know what the other results are. And so we're back to that where you're looking and you could actually do some weird things. I don't know how you fix it at this point, other than the future. The future of sports is roofed, and the more roofs you have, obviously, the more you mitigate some of those weather concerns. But the heat, you've heard how many people have complained. It's going to be the exact same next summer, and it's going to affect individual players. It's going to affect teams, and I guarantee you, there will be teams, and there will be players, and there will be coaches, and there will be administrators, and there will be fans who will blame the predicament that their particular nation is in because of the weather.
You mentioned the 2 more round of 16 matches tomorrow, including PSG against Inter Miami, and then Bayern Munich will take on Flamengo. But that PSG Inter Miami, fascinating. Messi against his former club.
Oh, I mean, it would be an upset, to say the least, but it's going to be fun. I would think Messi's going to be motivated. I'm excited to watch. It's going to be a fun-filled soccer Sunday.
And it's Luis Enrique managing against Messi and Suarez. Luis Enrique was the Barcelona coach when they won that treble in 2015 with that incredible front line, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. So, yeah, storylines abound there. Should be fun. One note, by the way,
Sure.
MLS is going on right now. We haven't talked at all about it since
know.
the Gold Cup started. I was discussing this with Mo Edu today in the green room. If MLS had more credibility in Brazil, Evander to the national team would be at least a conversation. I'm not saying he would be picked, but it would at least be a name that would be brought up in discussions because he's the exact type of player Brazil could use right now, a creative player in the midfield. And man, what a talent he is. 2 more goals today for Cincinnati in their win away to Orlando. He did it in Portland last year, was an MVP candidate, and the transition to Cincinnati has been seamless. He's having an MVP type season this year.
Do you think it's so bad that he's not even on the radar? Do you think they even speak about him in the corridors of the Federation?
No, in fact, at different points, he's talked about maybe having to go back to Brazil to be considered for the national team. He thinks that his only chance would be to move to one of these Brazilian clubs like Flamengo and Palmeiras that we're watching in the Club World Cup.
Well, that's a shame. Do you think that it's worse for the Brazilian team and the Brazilian Federation than, for example, Argentina or Colombia or others?
Yeah, and it's actually been a big topic during this Club World Cup. There are some pundits in Brazil that have brought up, we decry Euro snobbery, but maybe we need to stop looking down on other leagues, below us.
Yep.
And actually, in this Club World Cup, Brazilian teams haven't fared that well against MLS opposition. So you'd like to think that maybe MLS garnered some respect.
Well, look, MLS is playing through all of these tournaments. There's a lot of soccer out there. For those junkies like myself, you have days off. I'm still watching soccer, and it doesn't matter whether it's MLS or anybody else out there. But people that are listening, people that are watching, I recognize we only have so much bandwidth out there. And in the summer months, we've talked about the potential saturation out there. I don't think there's ever too much soccer, but certainly from a fan perspective, sometimes you can only handle so much.
One last thing for me, there's an old saying, your greatest ability is availability.
Mm-hmm.
And this Kyla Sean Sullivan debate is over because Sean Sullivan has skipped town again. I'm not sure why. Well, Kyla's here every night.
He has an event.
Producing this pod. And so I'm going to go with the producer that actually turns up every night,
right.
And that's Kyla.
Right. I mean,
she's our
not only does she turn up,
our young starlet.
Yeah, exactly. She's our young, our youth system, if you will, when it comes to the State of the Union, is obviously producing results. So it's good. Speaking of youth, I don't know if you saw the interview with Sebastian Berhalter, and we'll end it here. We've talked a lot about Sebastian Berhalter this tournament, and I'm only using him as an example because he's kind of come to light, and people are interested in who he is as a player, obviously running around with that last name. And, he was talking to Jenny Taft about his glow up, for whatever you want to call it. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about the reason why he wants to step on the field. And yeah, there's the individual part of it, the potential to be in a World Cup next summer. And, this is the son of the former coach that just got fired, and all of that baggage that is not, through no fault of his own, he kind of is attached to him. And yet he goes about, does his job. and is grabbing hold of this opportunity. But to hear him, for an old guy like myself, especially in this moment where we're desperate for to care about this team, to hear him talk about the reason why he loves doing this is because he gets to represent his country. That made me feel good. And again, I don't know if Sebastian Berhalter is going to be in the World Cup next summer. It really doesn't matter to me, but that he feels that pride, that he understands the responsibility, and that is his first answer when he is asked about this opportunity that he has. I think it says a lot about him.
Did you catch Jenny Taft in that interview saying football instead of soccer?
I did. Maybe that's how her little neck of the woods up there in Minnesota rolls, but we call it soccer. Anything before we go, Mosse?
That's it.
All right. We will be back again tomorrow night after all of the action. Big game day Sunday coming up when it comes to the Gold Cup. We get to check out Mauricio Pochettino and company and see if they can go through and find their way to yet another semifinals at the Gold Cup. Keep reviewing and downloading and rating and subscribing and doing all the different things that you do. Pounding up and down. Smash that button left, right, double fisting up and down on the old Spotify and YouTube and X and all the different things that you have out there. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And until then, and as always, my friends, size the day.